market caps of everything is down like significantly, I think we'll see the people that continue building rise up again. The agent just goes off and executes different trades on behalf of the user.
Is there similarity between how you guys do it and how Numerai does it?
Node exists as an L2. I think that we're going to see a lot of L2s go down this route of building their own application.
Welcome to the Deco podcast, where we bring you stories from founders and investors in Web3. Before we get started, this is not a financial or legal advice. It's just a conversation about things we find interesting in Web3. Views expressed are our own personal opinions. Deco members or guests appearing on the show may have positions on assets they talk about. All right, new episode. James Ross has joined me today to talk about DeFi, AI, Mode Network, and Synthdata. James has been spending a lot of his time at the intersection of crypto and AI. And we chatted before recording this, and pretty sure that he has a lot of interesting thoughts to share with us today. Welcome to the show, James.
Thanks so much for having me. Super excited to be here.
Lovely. Let's start with a little bit of your background and how you've spent your time in crypto and of late, like AI and at the intersection.
Absolutely. So I've been kind of building, investing over the last 7 years. I focus very much on DeFi, financial applications, which can be built, and use cases which can be built with crypto. And founded Mode just under 2 years ago, around 18 months ago. We launched Mainnet just over a year ago. And we very much focused on building at the intersection of DeFi and AI. And that kind of led us down this road to also build out Synth.
Awesome. So 7 years, right? And you've been an investor, so you probably understand the space, not only from the builder's perspective, but also from investor and users perspective. What led you to consider that, okay, hey, this is an intersection that I want to build in?
Yeah. So, I first actually had an AI startup, like a fintech that was using AI back in 2015. And it was very much focused on data analytics and getting insights from people's data and giving smart suggestions. And then after that, I got very interested in Ethereum, the Ethereum ecosystem, everything which was being built around DeFi. And it's kind of gone full circle. It's the last year I've spent most of my time thinking about this intersection of finance and AI. I think AI is obviously, everyone knows at this point, it's a fundamentally world-changing technology. And it's not going to be if there's going to be AI, the question is there will be AI across every industry. It's what will the impact be? How will users interact with AI daily with, on every kind of thing they're doing, every kind of action they take, whether it's online, whether it's on chain. So we're starting to explore that. And I think, the first mass market use case of AI has been LLMs or retail use case. And we're going to, see hundreds more use cases, products emerge that use AI. So it's definitely the world-changing technology. And I think no matter what industry you're in, you're thinking about how AI is going to change that industry for the better.
So every time there is a new technology outside of crypto, or every new primitive, we try to slap crypto onto it, right? We have this one nail and hammer, and we want to hammer it everywhere. But so with respect to this, right, with respect to AI, when the traditional Web 2 companies have been building AI for quite some time now, where did you think that, okay, with this intersection kind of makes a lot of sense? Because initially, for a long time, I used to feel that, this is just another narrative that projects want to catch. And, they are just slapping AI, just as slapping Web3 was cool in the previous cycle. Using AI as a buzzword is kind of cool this time around. But I think at some point that changed for me, and I think even within decentralized.co. So I just want to understand at what point that change occurred, because you've already started this AI startup before, right? So at what point did you think that, okay, merging these two makes sense?
Yeah. So, the way I look at AI interacting with DeFi is through kind of each part of the stack. So we have the user application, so agent layer, and you can use tools like LLMs to help with research. You can use tools like LLMs, which will give you different strategies and you can work with agents that run like some kind of autonomous strategy for you. So that's one way. Then you have like a data layer, which is using AI powered data machine learning models to help you make better decisions. And then we look at like the execution layer, or like the base layer, which is like, can we get decentralized AI networks to actually work and to perform better than what we have kind of on the centralized side. So we're very much focused on this like application layer. Which tools can we build into applications to enable users to make better decisions on chain? And we're also very focused on the data layer, like how can we use AI and models to create better, essentially, forecasting layers for users to take advantage of to make smarter decisions.
All right. So this thought led you to start Mode. This was around 18 months ago. So yeah, like several L2s, right? I mean, so many L2s exist. I want to understand like what is the thesis for Mode network? We can talk about Synthdata later, but first I want to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. So initially we started Mode with the vision to kind of try and build at the cutting edge of DeFi. Very quickly we realized like the most transformative technology that we thought we would see in the next 6, 12, 18 months onwards was going to be AI agents on chain. So we initially kind of built the foundation out for Mode, the foundational infrastructure. So ensuring that there are the right applications on the chain. And then we started working with builders who are building out different types of agents to do different tasks on chain. And they all have like fairly different approaches to, the way that they actually use AI on chain. But yeah, our big vision is that agents will run the majority of transactions for users. Now, users won't be going to the front end of Uniswap. They won't be going to the front end of Aave. They will be directing agents either through like a chat interface or through maybe like a simple like deposit and withdraw vault that's run by agents. That's how like the majority of people will interact on chain in the future. These agents will run tasks, strategies on behalf of users. So that's like our big vision. And our focus is to, enable builders to essentially build out these building blocks for these agents to exist and succeed on chain.
But with respect to the current crop of products that allow users to, I mean, these are essentially chat interfaces, right? I mean, whether it is Wayfinder or anything else. So we are assuming that the user knows what is to be done, right? With this assumption, at least I have observed that executing those things yourself is kind of easier because you know how to navigate, right? I mean, if
Yeah.
there is a point where, okay, I don't know, this is a new chain and I don't know what bridge to use to, bridge in and out of that chain. At that time, I see the value. But other than that, for people who've been in crypto and who've been using these products, it kind of becomes an additional step with a little bit of friction because you have to chat with the agent and, sometimes the agent takes time to understand what you're trying to say. Then it'll ask you for confirmation. With all of this, I feel that, if you do these things yourself, like you end up doing them quicker. What do you think about that?
So I think that we're at this point where the core, like the hype of agents they were just overhyped right over the last few months. And like what can actually be achieved on chain with agents is fairly boring, but sometimes like that's fine. So Giza, we worked with them for a long time. They built an agent that moves your capital between lending protocols. And their agents are doing thousands of transactions to optimize the yield for you as a user. Like, for sure, you can do that yourself. You can move your capital between different lending protocols to optimize a few basis points. But you're probably not going to do that. And you'd rather an agent does that for you, right? Like, for sure you can. Also, when it comes like running like a basis trade or some simple trading strategies, for sure you can manage it yourself. You can set it up yourself. But if there's a, one-click strategy you can deploy that's managed by an agent, it's just a lot easier. So I think like where we are with agents being able to like do things for you, the main use case for DeFi is there to make you money, right? To help you earn on chain. That's like the purpose of DeFi. Earn, borrow, lend. At the end of the day, the goal is to make money. So we're kind of trying to answer the question, like, how can agents help people make more money? Right. And there's a few ways we're thinking about that. So it's either helping people find opportunities. We actually think there's pretty good coverage in the market for like signals agents. So you have things like AI XBT, which is essentially like a signals agent, research agent, and help people find opportunities. Maybe that's based on like social sentiment or on some other kind of signals in the market. Then there comes to like running more complex strategies, like trading strategies. So it could be hedging strategies, could be delta neutral strategies. And we built like the AI terminal. So people can ask the terminal like how to build like a certain options trading strategy or how to build a perps trading strategy. And then we have like this data layer, which you can query, which essentially helps people think about like managing risk. So you can say, I'm putting on this trade, and you can get data on like the liquidation probability for that trade, the expected time to liquidation. So we see like a huge opportunity in helping people make better decisions and educating them on how they can manage risk a lot better. For example, if you want to go long on Bitcoin, sure, you can go into any perps dex and just smash like 10x long. But, depending on like the expected volatility over the next 24 hours, that might be like a good idea or an absolutely terrible idea. So we're trying to bring more intelligence into like one place for people to access to essentially make better decisions, right? And say, hey, I want to go long on Bitcoin. What strategy should I do? And, the mode AI terminal will say something like, you should go like 2x long because we're coming into a volatile period. So this will ensure the chance of liquidation is below like 5%. So that's where we're trying to kind of go. It's essentially like bringing the type of tools that have existed within hedge funds for a long time to users, to like the average user. So, we're not expecting, like often people say, oh, but like hedge funds have all these tools or hedge funds have all these models. It's like, yeah, of course they do, right? Like we expect that to be the case, but the average user doesn't. And retail users are the ones that drive a lot of volume on chain and the ones that need to get better at managing risk and therefore the ones that should be like leveraging AI a load more.
Brilliant. So, for more context, this is the direction that I was thinking. I think it was a couple of months ago that I wrote an article on DeFi AI, right? And at this intersection. And I was looking at it from this perspective that, look, hey, what is the biggest competition for users that DeFi has at this point? It's probably the centralized exchanges, right? You have like power users, users who show up on DeFi like every now and then. And then you have a massive outside circle around it, which is the centralized users. And that is in a nutshell, like the user base for crypto, right? So what do centralized exchanges do for users that DeFi doesn't? And I think one of the answers that I had was curation, like something that you mentioned with intelligence agents, right? But again, like with respect to, if I take an example of AI XPT, it probably fires like 1,000 tweets per day. And it is not possible for even someone like us who are like plugged into crypto full time to make sense out of it, or to make sure that you take 5 things out of those 1,000 tweets that are actually actionable, right? And I think that is a place where AI can actually help. So the way that I had imagined this was like this, that, you log on to one of these agents and the agent really tries to understand your risk profile. And based on more interactions with you, by itself, it starts providing strategies to you instead of you trying to tell the agent that, okay, this is what I'm thinking and this is what I want you to execute.
Mhm.
If I flip that around and like a financial advisor in real life, the agent comes to me with 10 different strategies and tells me that, look, hey, based on whatever I've observed you do, these are the things that I find interesting for you. And then, like, based on those 8 to 10 options, like I can pick like one or two and ask the agent to execute. If something like that exists, at least I would definitely give it a try for and see how it evolves. That would make me like really excited about the space. And I think that this is what you alluded to when you were sharing like what your thought process was. Or I don't know what you think about it.
I mean, so the way I see it is like we're at this kind of like stage one was like the first wave was just like these agents that talk on Twitter and just do random stuff. That's like debatably like just not AI. It's just an LLM hooked up to a Twitter account with a wallet. Stage two is more like a co-pilot, which is what we've built with the AI terminal. And I think similar to Wayfinder, like I played around with a friend's demo. It's pretty cool. It's like good at building transactions, doing cross-chain stuff. This is very much like a copilot, like a cursor, right? Like you tell it what you want to do, and then it can go and like build out the strategy or like execute the strategy. Like that's what we're doing with Mode's AI terminal. It's at this point where you can say, I want to, go long on Bitcoin. What are the ways I can do this? And it can build your strategy. It can tell you where to put stop losses, all this kind of stuff to, reduce risk. And then like the next wave is very much going to be like this autonomous suggestions, right? And that could be an agent that has its own wallet that you deposit funds into, and then it goes off and runs certain strategies that either you tell it to run. So maybe it's just a strategy across like DEXs or lending protocols, or it could be more general that, or it could be an asset-based strategy, like accumulate more BTC. So I think, this is very much like where agents are suggesting and executing on behalf of users. That's kind of like the next wave. And we're super excited about it. I would caveat that like, I think it's going to be like a bit of a jump, right? Because right now, the way that users interact with like the AI terminal is they say what they want to do. And then the terminal like essentially sets that trade up and the user like confirms that trade, right? So it's very much like a co-pilot. You as a user is very much in control. An agent like suggesting trades and you doing them, you're still kind of in control. But if you start losing money, you might be angry and have problems. But like this stage where like the agent just goes off and executes different trades on behalf of a user, like you have to kind of keep the scope quite reduced initially to make sure that like the user really understands what's happening. So if it does extremely well or doesn't do so well, there's like a lot of transparency. Everything is verifiable. Every action is verifiable. All the data sources are verifiable. And that's very much like another kind of wave that I think we're going to see very soon. These autonomous trading agents.
So currently, I think you guys also announced a trading terminal, right? A few days ago.
Yeah. So we've been working with Orderly, and we've built out like a perp dex, which integrates into the Mode AI terminal. So as a user, you can go to the terminal, you can say, I want to go long on Bitcoin. And then you can actually, from this like LLM chat interface, you can like set the trade, then go and see that it's been executed on the Mode perps dex.
All right. And where is it sourcing the liquidity from?
It's from Orderly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Orderly is deployed on like, I think 7 or 8 different chains and has like a shared liquidity pool essentially.
Right. Before we move on, like I want to ask a question. I mean, it might be silly, but like, do retail traders or investors really want to play around with tools that hedge funds do? I mean, I don't know. Like, does retail want that kind of complexity?
I think that, okay, so if we look at this from like the perspective of a perps dex, right? People think that perps dexes want everyone to come on, go long or go short, blow up, get liquidated, take fees, and then that's it, right? But that's like very much not the case. Like perps dexes actually want people to come on and they want people to make money, right? They want people to stay. They want people to become better traders and they want them to continue to trade for like a long period of time. And having more and more of these tools which help educate people on how to become better, how to manage risk better. So essentially that's all it comes down to. Helps traders perform better and means they'll stay for much longer. So we really see like these tools as like a retention tool for anyone who's done like acquisition campaigns across crypto in general, but also across DeFi and across trading venues. It's extremely costly to acquire a user. You really don't want them to churn. So you have to give them a reason to come back. And from what we've seen, like, Mode Trade has been launched a few days, so we don't have any data really, but people do like the AI tools, even if they don't set trades, they're coming back to the terminal to ask questions, get answers. And so we think this is going to be pretty powerful.
All right. I think that's fair. Have there been any attempts in traditional markets where, this kind of experiment or this kind of offering has already been there for retail traders and you've seen like retention numbers go up or like new users signing up because of that differentiation that you have?
Yeah, so I think the way that like we've tried to integrate Synthdata, like forecasting data, is similar to these kind of like indexes that exist. So we have like fear and greed index. This is actually based, as far as I think this is correct, it's based on like options pricing and it's essentially like a volatility index. And people like retail, like trading on things like this, like RSI, like there's all these different indicators that people trade on. So yeah, having like this type of data within Mode's AI terminal, people seem to be interested in. And it's another source for them to, yeah, trade on. So I think in general, like you want to find, like, for example, with AIXBT, their source of data, like their key thing is giving people signals to trade on, right? So yeah, it definitely is something that I think the goal of any like trading venue is to increase volume, right? And having more and more information, data available generally increases activity and increases volume. Yeah. So I think the classic thing is you see trading firms buying, sponsoring news outlets, right? Or integrating news feeds. Like Bloomberg Terminal tries to integrate as much data as possible. NASDAQ has a huge data team which feeds, just all these different types of metrics. And generally, the more data, the more signal equals more volume.
Right. Okay, I think that is fair and it makes sense. So, can you give us an overview now of, well, mode network, mode trade, and synth data, and like how all of this comes together?
Yeah. So Mode is an L2. We have a DeFi ecosystem with, I think, like 70, 80 different applications. We built Mode Trade as a Perpstex with Orderly, actually within like the Mode kind of application. So it's very easy to access. And I would say it's kind of like makes Mode in a way like an app chain, or it's more like makes Mode more like hyperliquid, right? Like we have a core application, then we also have an ecosystem. And Synth is essentially a subnetwork built on BitTensor, which has 200 plus machine learning models competing to earn a share of rewards based on creating simulations or forecasts of the future price of BTC. So the way that users interact with Synth right now is Synth is essentially a data layer, and users on Mode can go to the AI terminal. They can query the data from Synth. So they can ask like, what's like the volatility forecast for Bitcoin for the next 24 hours? They can get like histograms. They can get like in-depth data on the expected volatility on prices of Bitcoin over the next 24 hours. And then they can go to Mode Trade and yeah, set up a trade, or they can just say, I want to go long or I want to go short and make a trade direct from the terminal.
All right, there's a lot, but I want to go in the direction of BitTensor and subnets, right? So,
Yeah.
what is a subnet? Like, break that down for us. And, how are these forecasts? Like, who are running these forecasts on what basis? And how is it all getting to the end user, right? And can you just break all of that down?
Absolutely. So I guess like, yeah, starting from a high level, the reason why we built Synth is we started building out agents, and me and my co-founder on Synth, we've built out a lot of trading systems ourselves. And the kind of key thing you need to really build out an agent that actually has an edge is you need to essentially be asking questions, and you need to be forecasting what's going to happen in the future. And in DeFi, I think people don't really, they kind of discount this, right? That like a good LP strategy on Uni V3 requires you to set a range that you think the price is going to trade in. And if you deposit or you borrow against collateral on a lending protocol, you actually run the risk of liquidation. So you need to make a prediction about the future. Like, how much do I want to borrow is based on my risk profile, is based on what could happen next to this asset, right? If I deposit ETH and ETH drops 50%, I might lose my collateral if I haven't yet over collateralized my position enough. So throughout DeFi, you need to ask questions about the future. And currently, there aren't many data sources for that, right? So when we were building agents and working with different agent teams, we kind of kept asking them, so like, how is this agent making decisions about the future? Right? And how is it adjusting its positions based on, price movements or movements in, whatever. And there weren't really many answers and there weren't really many data sources. So we thought, okay, let's go and build this. And essentially we looked the best way to build this, and we came across BitTensor. And BitTensor is essentially an incentive mechanism. So our subnet is us running a competition for data scientist miners to submit predictions or forecasts on the volatility of Bitcoin. So the way we've set up the data science competition is you essentially have to run like time series models If people quants are pretty familiar with this, or they have to submit Monte Carlo simulations of 100 potential price paths for Bitcoin over the next 24 hours. And then they're continuously scored on how accurate these are to the real price movements. So over time, you start to really find out which data scientists have accurate models because they're continuously scored every hour over 24 hours on their past predictions. And you start to see who has the most accurate predictions. They go to the top of the leaderboard and they get paid out. And the prizes are fairly significant. I think there's probably around $1 million a year going to data scientists, maybe a bit less. So yeah, it can be very profitable to be taking part in this competition. And yeah, the output is essentially an API. The agents can access these forecasts that people can use to try and understand what happens in the future. And I think the best way to think about volatility forecasts and why they're useful is for an agent or for a human is if you think about you have a position open and a BTC long position, the price is 85K, your liquidation price is 80K, right? You're probably not thinking probabilistically about how likely you are to get liquidated, right? And maybe it's a Sunday night, volatility is usually low, probably a low chance you'll be liquidated. However, on Monday, there might be a Trump speech. And as we know, when Trump has a speech, there's generally a lot of volatility. And so there might be a very high chance now, into Monday morning, that your position could be liquidated because, depending on how the speech goes, there could be a large expected movement, either 10% up or 10% down, maybe 5% either way. And that would mean that you get liquidated. So this is why volatility forecasting is important. And it's something that agents can use across DeFi. So this is why, we built out Synth. And right now we have a number of teams integrating Synthdata, and Mode Trade is really the first integration. We wanted to see how people would use Synth to trade and to run different strategies on chain. So yeah, expect to see a lot more integrations of Synth across DeFi in general.
That's brilliant. And it kind of reminds me of Numera, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there similarity between how you guys do it and how Numera does it? And secondly, you said that all these data scientists are incentivized. So how are you incentivizing them? I mean, what is the mechanism of incentives?
Yeah. So firstly, Numerai, yes, it is similar to Numerai. Numerai is a data science competition for users to predict the stock market. I actually participated in Numerai back in 2017. And yeah, one of my business partners participated as well, kind of did that together, and he won a competition back in the day. So yeah, we're very familiar with Numerai. And yeah, I guess that the main difference is Numerai is stock market predictions. It was encrypted data that you basically had to run a model on. Then they would take all the models and build some meta model and then apply it to their fund, which was trading on the stock market. But there was never really any detail, as far as I know, on the performance of the fund. It was always a bit black box. Synth is a bit different. We modeled this competition on a competition from Jane Street, which is a large trading firm. People in crypto usually know Jane Street from SBF because that's where he was before FTX. Essentially, they have a data science competition that gets people to do time series or Monte Carlo simulations. So we've modeled Synth on that. And yeah, data scientists compete. And essentially, the top data scientist every day is paid out in alpha token Tau, which is the currency of BitTensor on Synth. And yeah, the rewards are pretty significant. So yeah, for any data scientists watching, BitTensor is a good place to compete. Yeah, on multiple things. But yeah, if you're looking at synthetic data or quant stuff, then Synth is a good place to start.
Does it also mean that to run this subnet on BitTensor, you guys need to buy some Tau and stake it? How does that work? Because why is BitTensor rewarding in Tau where the beneficiary essentially is more network? I just want to understand that.
Yeah. So, I mean, BitTensor is purely inflationary, and BitTensor emits Tau to subnets. It's a fairly complex system, but very quickly, the old system, the validators would vote on which subnets they think should get Tau, and BitTensor would just stream Tau, right? So it's similar to kind of Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin miners would do work. BTC goes to the miners who do the most work, right? BitTensor is based on Bitcoin in many ways. So essentially you have subnets, you have miners, they're doing work, they're getting emissions. It's like the most simplistic version. And BitTensor's recently moved to something called DTAO, like dynamic tau, which essentially means every subnet gets its own token. Miners own the token, but they can swap it back in for tau. Tau emissions still go to the subnets. Kind of complex, but yeah, it makes sense if you're like actively like using it within the ecosystem. But yeah, I guess the question is like, why is BitTensor doing this? And why is it good for like mode? It's like, well, we had to just set up the structure and like the incentive mechanism, and we get access to like all these data scientists. And as long as like there's value in the output, then how will be emitted to our subnet, right? And the idea is that the most valuable subnets will grow in value based on like the market forces around them, and they'll get the most tau. So I think the top subnets right now, don't quote me on this, but I believe they're getting like maybe a couple $100,000 of tau a day going to, yeah, this, like running this subnet essentially.
Right, but how is it decided that, okay, these are the subnets that are more useful than others?
Based on the relative market cap of their alpha token.
Okay. So you do the work, you get alpha tokens, and that determine. But again, like how many alpha tokens you get, how is that decided?
They're all on, so alpha tokens are on a, like an emission schedule. Like every subnet has the same amount of alpha tokens, which is 21 million. And alpha token emissions are split between miners, validators, and the subnet owner.
Okay. No, I get it.
But yeah, also like the market can participate. Yeah, it's a fairly new complex system, but I would say it's pretty similar to if you imagine virtuals. You have like all these projects, they all have different market caps and they all have a pool, right, with their token. And with virtuals, it was with virtuals. Now it's with tau. And yeah, the only difference is there's tau constantly being emitted into these pools
Right.
relative to like their market cap.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Now it all makes sense. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been like, I think 2 months, BitTensor's been trying out this system. And yeah, it's fairly complex, but it seems to be working quite well.
Maybe there's something to be written about here because since I didn't know about it. So yeah, thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
All right. So now, like based on little understanding that I have in the last few minutes, like since you are kind of doing the forecasting for the next 24 hours, right? That serves as the basis for, I mean, it can serve as a basis for a lot of things. Like, I mean, you can build out a risk engine. You can let users manage their own risk based on these price predictions. You can have an agent that is catered towards individual users and based on the models and weights, it tells users that, okay, like you are getting a bit too greedy here, or you need to trim down your leverage or whatever. And also, since this is like volatility is the basis for all options related products, you can build out like, I mean, options are a missing piece as far as I'm concerned in DeFi. I think they are virtually non existent. And it's such an important tool to manage your risk, right? In traditional part of the world where, I mean, if you're long something, you can sell calls and, like fund those longs by selling those calls, right? And similarly on the downside as well, if you're short, you can probably, sell some puts and, manage your risk that way. But that is something that we just can't do because, I mean, no options protocol understands perp protocol and the other way around, right? So we need to use like different capital to play in options as well as perp. I think Deribit is the only thing that comes close to letting you manage all these positions, for the lack of a better word, centrally. But we don't have that in DeFi yet, right? Because maybe the risk engines are different and, they don't talk to each other. There is no composability between the perps protocol and the options protocol. So yeah, like how do you think about these things, right? And because if you want to be inclusive, right, that is the goal of DeFi, that everyone or every person with an internet connection should probably have access to financial products, right? But our capital efficiency is not, I mean, it's nowhere close to how it is in traditional part of the world, right? With options, I think you unlock that next level of capital efficiency, which also means that similar dollars can express like more opinion in the market. Right. Earlier, it took you like $10 probably to go long and buy options. Now, with $5, you can do both, right? Since we are improving the capital efficiency. So, yeah, I mean, these are like random thought. I just want to understand like what you think about all of this. Is there a need for it at all? maybe I'm thinking like the wrong direction, but yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. Like options. So for this, like volatility data, like trading options is perfect. We've started to use Synth to like price options. We've actually built like a page like of the way like of the Synth pricing of options over the next 24 hours versus Deribit. And yeah, I guess like the question is like, why haven't options been successful? I think perps are just way easier to understand. And so that's why they've kind of had like a lot of like success with retail.
But if you see in traditional markets, right, in equities, options are like
Yeah.
well rated by retail, right? And
Yeah, like Robinhood is all options, right? So
right. So I don't think it is that retail doesn't understand options or they don't want to trade options. I just think that the avenues to trade them easily don't exist in these.
mhm, true. I mean, yeah, we're trying to integrate Synth with some options trading protocols. We're trying to, yeah, figure out like how we can help people understand like how to set up strategies and what type of strategies to run, dependent on like, yeah, what they think is going to happen next in the market and how they want to position themselves. Options are a super powerful tool. So yeah, we are definitely looking at that and looking at, how we can do that. If we could find a partner to build like a mode options, we would 100% do that. That would be awesome. But yeah, I think like, the next thing on the roadmap for us is to actually add equities and indices to get to synth so we can start to forecast different things. I think that's going to be interesting. And I think that's going to be like a big theme for the next year is trading these more real world assets on chain. And I think that's going to open up a lot. Like you said, like that's what DeFi is about. It's about like openness. Anyone from anywhere in the world with an internet connection can access these opportunities, right? They can access stable coins, they can access yield. And so, yeah, I think the next year is going to focus on how they can access these different type of assets, which maybe they couldn't access previously.
Does that mean that you have to hold those shares somewhere or have to have some sort of agreements with the company that holds those stocks, or it's purely Oracle based? And
A big go Oracle base, yeah, I exit out.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if it's like derivatives, right? Platform, perhaps platform, options platform.
Right. Makes sense. So, I mean, I think you answered like what's next for Mode Network. That is the integration of, I mean, just expanding it to TradFi, right? And would that also be of perps or that is purely spot? Like, how does that work?
It would be, yeah, perhaps. And, we would also try and have the same new assets we list with on synth available across like, yeah, DeFi on mode. So we're starting to see a lot of like real world assets emerge, whether that's like stocks like Coin from Coinbase. I think that's available like on Base, or whether it's like indices like SPX that's become available on certain perp dexes already. We're starting to see people trade that. So yeah, that's kind of the focus for us.
Makes sense. And in terms of the competition, right? I mean, you said that you tried out Wayfinder, and I want to understand your experience of using. I mean, I don't want you to, I mean, if you can use specific names, please go for it. But in general, you can talk in general sense also, right? I just want to understand what you think the competition is for board and, in general, like where the DeFi trading or trading space is, a trading space which is enabled by agents, of course.
Yeah, so I think that like I mean mode exists as an L2 with now its own applications, right? And I think that we're going to see a lot of L2s go down this route of building their own applications. And we have kind of already seen that with like Gnosis Chain. They started building their own applications. They've been like massively successful. We see like Hyperliquid, which is an L1 with like a core application. So I think this is one trend. We're still like working on supporting teams in our ecosystem, building out our ecosystem, helping people build agents which can transact across our ecosystem, helping people who can build agents for like, simple strategies or like more structured products. So like a basis trading agent. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Right now, like I think there's some pretty cool products. Like I think AI Wayfinder is super cool. I think like Hey Anon is also pretty cool. They're like taking different directions. I think we're much more focused on like, how can we build tools to enable people to get better at trading on like, yeah, using like forecasting data and more complex, yeah, I'd say more advanced strategies. That's really like our focus for the next 6 to 12 months. And how can we help people become, yeah, better users of DeFi? And, when these new types of assets launch, how can we help people take advantage of that?
What is like the current user persona for like more networks user?
Yeah, DeFi users, essentially, like people who are interested in testing out new DeFi products.
And, I mean, I haven't seen Orderly's liquidity and what does the depth look like and so on. So the question is, I mean, why not go with something like a hyperliquid where the depth is like, I think it should be higher than Orderly's depth. I've not seen, but that's my assumption. But yeah, like, why not build on something that already has like a lot of liquidity and so on instead of, something with lesser liquidity?
Yeah, so I mean, orderly deployed to Mode. So it's still native to like the Mode chain, right? It's still a very native experience. When you go on Mode Trade, you have your USDC on Mode, you deposit into Mode Trade, and orderly is essentially, yeah, the engine, right? The trading engine, the order book. But as a user, it very much feels like Mode Trade. Orderly's there as like the engine in the background. And that's why it's like pretty powerful. And it was like a very fast integration. We didn't have to spend years building a DEX. We didn't have to spend a huge amount of time sourcing liquidity. Orderly's been like a really awesome partner to work with on that front to give us like a really like native experience that can plug into everything else we're building. So it plugs into like the AI terminal, all of this stuff.
And beyond mode trade, like what other applications are you excited by on mode?
Yeah, so we have teams building out lots of different stuff. We work very closely with the Velodyne team for a long time. We're working with teams building out like kind of automated liquidity management based on synth forecasts. So they manage LP positions for users. We've worked with Giza. They're doing awesome work at the moment. Yeah, we're focused on mostly like agent builders right now and ecosystem applications, which focus in on trading. So yeah, there's lots of cool stuff to come.
Have you already seen like in DeFi where like investors or traders have actually made AI a part of their tech stack and like they are literally using AI in their flows yet? Or you're yet to see that?
I mean, I posted today, someone like, we have a group, which is like a mode holder group, a token holder group, and like people were, yeah, playing around the LLM, getting questions, answers on like forecasts. So I think it's something which is, we're kind of at the beginning of this trend. And I expect that like, yeah, I mean, a lot of pro traders use forecasting tools and volatility modeling tools already. So yeah, if we have this available to a wider range of people, I hope they can, yeah, leverage them.
Brilliant. Like in the past year or so with this AI trend, like did you look at something and go like, wow, like what these guys are building is cool? And I don't know, let's not go for the other way where I was going to ask you, what do you think where you felt that, okay, like these guys are not doing it right or whatever? But probably the latter one you don't have to answer because you may not want to name names. Yeah.
I mean, I can answer stuff that I thought was like not great. So I think that we saw like some projects emerge. They're just like using very basic, like the LLMs tied to a Twitter account doing stuff. It's like, what is this? It's just like there was the goat one. It was just didn't make any sense, right? And it like pumped and the price went up. And it was a meme. It was like a meme of AI. There wasn't, it's debatable. Is it AI? I don't know what the answer to that is, but whatever it is, it's not on chain. So it's not like crypto AI. It's just an LLM with a Twitter account and a wallet with some meme coins in it. And then stuff that I found to be pretty impressive. I mean, there's a lot of great builders in BitTensor ecosystem. I've been pretty impressed with the guys from Codex. They're building some great stuff. They built some really great tools. They actually have agents that are trading on chain, which is dope. I think there's one called Billy Agent. There's a team called Score who have an agent which is trading on sports based on their sports forecasting. They're also a BitTensor subnet, pretty dope. Yeah, there's a lot of really great stuff being built. I'm, yeah, I guess closest to like the Tensor ecosystem. But yeah, there's, yeah, a lot happening. So I do not think that like, I think market caps of everything is down like significantly. I think we'll see the people that continue building rise up again.
Right. Hoping for the same, right? I mean, I hope that the market for once rewards people who've been building regardless of the prices. All right. Is there anything else you want to chat about?
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, if you can find more information, I'm just J Ross Treacher on a Twitter or at Mode Network is the Mode account. Yeah, there's always like new info, new projects, new stuff we're building there. So yeah, come check it out.
Thanks a lot, James. Thanks for spending an hour. This was brilliant. Thank you. I will definitely look into the BitTensor ecosystem more and probably write about it and give you a shout out later.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Really appreciate your time. That was super fun. Thank you so much.
And